You sit down at your desk at 5 p.m., and your brain feels like it's been wrung out like a wet towel. The work is technically done. The emails are sent, the meetings are over. But your mind is still running, still looping, still replaying that conversation from 2 p.m., still mentally drafting the email you forgot to send, still calculating what's on the calendar tomorrow. You close your laptop, but your brain doesn't close with it. That feeling right there, that is not normal. That is not just part of being an adult. And that is absolutely not something you just have to live with. Here's what's actually happening inside your brain during a high-pressure workday. Your nervous system has been flooded with cortisol for hours. Your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for clear thinking, calm decision-making, and emotional regulation, has been essentially hijacked by your stress response. By the time the workday ends, you're not just tired. You are neurologically depleted. And the worst part is that most people spend their entire evening in that state without even realizing it. They sit in front of the television but can't really absorb anything. They try to have a real conversation with someone they love but feel oddly distant and irritable. They attempt to read something meaningful but find themselves rereading the same paragraph 4 times. They go to bed, but instead of sleeping, they lie there with their thoughts racing like a freight train at midnight. Does that sound familiar? Because I want you to know that millions of people are living exactly this way right now, tonight, and they think it's just life. It isn't. And before we go any further, I want to mention something important. We have a program linked down below in the video description that addresses exactly this. Not just the surface-level tips you've already heard, the actual root-level rewiring that changes how your brain recovers after stress. If you've been struggling with this for a while and you're serious about changing it, check the description now because this information doesn't stay available forever, and most people who wait end up waiting for good. But let me give you something real right now. The reason your brain won't shut off after work isn't a willpower problem, it's not a discipline problem, and it's definitely not because you're weak. It's a biological pattern that your nervous system has been trained into, often over years and sometimes over decades. And the longer it goes on, the deeper that groove gets. Think about it this way. Every single day you put your brain through an obstacle course of pressure, urgency, conflict, and complexity. And then at 5 or 6 or 7 p.m., you expect that brain to just suddenly switch into rest mode. But no one ever actually taught your brain how to make that switch. So instead, it stays in fight or flight, still scanning for threats, still problem solving, still bracing for impact that's no longer coming. And here's where the real cost shows up, because I want you to sit with this for a moment. Research from the American Institute of Stress indicates that over 80% of workers report feeling stressed during their workday. But what's more alarming is what happens after that stress never fully releases. Chronic cortisol elevation is directly linked to memory impairment, reduced creativity, weakened immune function, disrupted sleep architecture, and long-term cognitive decline. We're not talking about feeling a little foggy. We're talking about your brain aging faster than it should because you never learned how to properly come down from stress. One study found that people who don't properly recover from work stress show measurably lower cognitive performance the following day, and the day after that, and the day after that, until it becomes a downward spiral so gradual you don't even notice how far you've drifted from the version of yourself that used to feel sharp, motivated, and genuinely excited about life. Now here's where I need to challenge you just a little bit with real care, because I'm not here to make you feel bad. If you think this doesn't apply to you because you're still functioning, I want you to really think about that word, functioning. Is that the life you actually want, functioning? Because there's a version of you that doesn't just function. There's a version of you that ends a workday and actually transitions into the evening feeling present. Feeling calm, feeling genuinely available to the moments that matter most. If that sounds impossibly idealistic to you right now, that's actually important information, because that gap between where you are and where that sounds is exactly how deeply this pattern has taken hold. Now let's talk about what actually works, because this is where most content falls short. The first thing your brain desperately needs after a high-pressure workday is a deliberate decompression signal. Not Netflix, not a glass of wine. A deliberate neurological signal that the threat is over. Your nervous system responds to specific physical cues, and one of the most powerful is controlled breathing. Not the deep breathing you do when someone tells you to calm down and it makes you more annoyed. Specific patterns of breathing that directly activate the parasympathetic nervous system. The rest and digest system that is the direct biological counterpart to your stress response. A physiological sigh, which is a double inhale through the nose followed by a long, slow exhale through the mouth, has been studied extensively at Stanford and shown to rapidly reduce physiological arousal. This isn't mystical. This is your body's built-in reset mechanism that most people never use intentionally. Do 3 of those right now if you want. Just try it. And notice what happens to your shoulders, your jaw, the tension behind your eyes. The second key is what researchers call cognitive offloading. When your brain is still running loops after work, it's doing so in part because it doesn't trust that you've captured everything that needs attention. It's trying to hold on to tasks, worries, and unfinished thoughts because your brain, much like a terrible personal assistant, refuses to let go until it's sure someone else has the information. A simple brain dump, writing out everything that's circling in your mind onto paper, not a phone, actual paper, signals to your prefrontal cortex that it can stop monitoring. The act of writing externally reduces the mental energy your brain is spending on internal surveillance. Studies in cognitive psychology have consistently shown this reduces intrusive thoughts and improves the quality of mental recovery during rest periods. People who regularly do this report sleeping faster, feeling less anxious during the evening, and showing up to the following workday with measurably clearer thinking. The third element is transition ritual, and this one is so underestimated it's almost criminal. Your brain lives and dies by context cues. It's why you walk into a kitchen and suddenly feel like eating even when you weren't hungry. It's why driving the same route to work triggers work mode automatically. You can use this exact mechanism to your advantage. A consistent transition ritual, even 5 minutes long, trains your brain to begin shifting neurological states predictably and efficiently. This could be changing your clothes immediately after work. It could be a short walk outside. It could be making a specific cup of tea and sitting in a different chair than where you work. The content matters less than the consistency. Because over time, your brain learns the cue and begins triggering recovery mode before you even consciously intend it. This is why professional athletes have pre-game rituals. It's why elite performers across every field, from surgeons to musicians to military personnel, use structured transitions to shift mental states. And it works with the same power in reverse, to shift out of high-performance pressure mode and into genuine rest. Now I want to paint a picture for you, because I want you to feel what's possible on the other side of this. Imagine leaving work, not rushing, not dreading the mental noise, just leaving. You do your ritual, whatever yours looks like, and within 15 minutes, your thoughts have slowed. The looping has quieted. You're actually present. You sit down for dinner, and you can hear what's being said to you. Really hear it. Not nod along while your mind is 3 calendar days ahead. You feel something that might have started to feel foreign, ease. You're not performing relaxation. You're actually experiencing it. Later that evening, you read something and you retain it. You watch something and you actually enjoy it. You get into bed, and when your head hits the pillow, the freight train isn't there. Your body sinks into the mattress, your breath slows, and within minutes, not hours, you drift, you sleep deeply. You wake up, and for the first time in a long time, you don't feel like you need 3 hours before you feel like yourself. You feel clear, you feel rested, you feel ready. Not just willing to drag yourself to work, but genuinely ready to engage with the day. And over time, this compounds in ways that are almost hard to describe unless you've felt it. Your relationships improve because you're actually present in them. Your work quality improves because a rested brain is dramatically more creative and effective. Your health markers improve because chronic cortisol is no longer hammering your immune and cardiovascular systems every single night. People who go from chronically stressed and mentally foggy to genuinely recovered report that it feels like getting a version of themselves back that they thought was just gone. Not because they found some hack, but because they finally understood how their brain actually works and gave it what it genuinely needed. Now here's the truth, and I want to say this with complete honesty. What I've shared today is real and it works, but it's also the surface. The real depth of this work, the structured protocols, the progressive recovery training, the specific sequencing that makes these changes stick long-term rather than fading after a week, that's what our program linked in the description covers in full detail. If you're the kind of person who doesn't need that, who can take these concepts and fully implement them on your own with consistency, genuinely wonderful. That's not everyone. But that might be you. If you're the kind of person who has heard good information before and still finds themselves lying awake at midnight, still dragging through evenings, still feeling like there's a version of themselves somewhere that they can't quite reach, the program exists for you. And the window to start is right now, in this moment, not next Monday, not after this quarter settles down, not when things get less busy, because things never get less busy. And every week you spend in that fog is a week you're not getting back. The description is right below this video. Everything you need is there. Your brain was not built to stay on fire indefinitely. It was built to rise and recover. And the recovery is where everything that matters actually happens.